Great job on the updates that we've seen so far, really looking fantastic and accessible. So, all right, go ahead, Jamar, whenever you're ready.
Thank you, Counselor. Thank you, members of council. For tonight, we are reviewing the Library and Human Relations Commission. They're in the back of the budget book. Forgive me, but I don't have my budget book with me. It's at home, so I can't tell you the exact tab. On your screen, we have the library budget. The library budget covers 9 employees, 6 AFSCME, and 3 management. We've accounted for both the AFSCME 4% and management 3.5% salary increases. Longevity impacts a small handful of employees there under the AFSCME unit. And then we account for medical benefits, pension, Social Security, and OPEB for those employees. So that's on the library side. It should also be noted under CIP, we have quite a few building upgrades to library facilities, including, but not limited to HVAC, which is air conditioning and heating, ceiling and lighting replacements, fire alarm upgrades, as well as security camera upgrades to the exterior of the branches. Last thing of note, under the allocations that we've set aside for the American Rescue Plan Act funding, we hadn't properly listed the library breakdowns, and so that has been updated in the spreadsheet that you have this afternoon to reflect those. Under infrastructure, we have digitization and outdoor Wi-Fi boost in the amount of $100,000 in funding. And then under COVID response prevention category, we have the senior telemedicine outreach program, which is going to be a $200,000 effort over 2 years. With that, I will stop for questions about the library expenditures.
Jamar, and I would ask both you and or Bronwyn to clarify. I think we did discuss this before with the ARP, just a little bit of more description of those 2 new initiatives with the telemedicine and the Wi-Fi boost.
Sure.
If you would please.
I can do that. So the telemedicine is, we already have our outreach to the 12 senior high rises throughout the city of Reading with our senior outreach coordinator. So this would add a digital instructor as well as tablets and Wi-Fi hotspots, training senior citizens in how to use them, particularly for telemedicine, but of course, they may be using them for connecting with their loved ones or, using library digital streaming services. So that's one. The second, boosting Wi-Fi, currently our Wi-Fi is on 24/7, and it does reach probably within 10 feet of our buildings. We'd like to boost it so that it would reach our parking lots so that, people can connect from their cars or, from a further distance than right up against our buildings. Another one is digitizing the Pennsylvania room. As you know, the materials in the Pennsylvania room are irreplaceable, and it would be excellent to get them digitized. So we have accounted for a really high quality scanner that can accommodate even atlases, and paying a student intern over the course of 2 years to digitize the Pennsylvania room. And the fourth one is to enhance our adult programming. As you know, we've done a lot of virtual children's programming, but we're slow off the mark for adult programming, and we really need to boost that effort. So those are our 4 proposed American Rescue Act funds.
Okay, and before we go on, and thank you very much, Bronwyn, to other council members, I see that our city clerk has her hand raised. Linda?
No, nope, that's an accident.
Okay, well, then you don't. So, and I'm going to apologize for council. I've switched to devices, so I'm not having a view of all of you at this point. So if you want to make a comment, if you could raise your hand, and I'll just go around for those hands that I see being raised. Anyone have any questions for Bronwyn, sorry, and or Jamar?
Hi, Marcia. I'm raising my hand, but I guess you can't see me, like my actual
Now I
hand.
can, now that you started to speak, I can. That's great. Okay, Johanny.
What is the total then requested from ARP for the library
300,000.
total? And then also, Bronwyn, and I know we've spoken in the past about library needs and things of the sort. Does Public Works provide any services to the library?
Yes, I mean, they, you know, the electrician comes in and fixes electrical things, and the plumber comes in and fixes plumbing things up to a certain, you know, as they are able and they have the skills. Otherwise that they contract it out to Blansky or Captain Clog or, you know, whomever they need to call. So yes, they do provide some maintenance, but all of the cleaning, all of the lawn care, all of the utilities are borne by us in our operating expenses.
Yeah, I was just curious about how that worked, if the city provided like those types of services to the library and if it was reflected somehow here within our budget. But
No.
the library takes on that additional cost.
Yes.
Is that what I'm understanding?
Correct.
Okay. I thought prior to Act 47, it was a different
Yes.
agreement. Could
Yes.
you share with us what it was like before Act 47, please?
Well, I was not in an administrative role, so I am only going with what I know. But, you know, we had 20 employees who were library paid, and we had two of those employees were maintenance. So they paid through the city, did all of the cleaning and lawn care and snow shoveling and all of that kind of stuff. They were eliminated in 2010, and since then that has become a library expense. That's the short answer.
So as it stands, the library is able to sustain within its current budget and with what the city is offering the library.
We can
We're good for the
sustain it.
meantime?
I don't know for how long, because especially with COVID and the extra cleaning we've had to do, fortunately, we've had some reimbursement from both the county and the state for those expenses, but that's going to come to an end shortly. So of course, I would appreciate any additional help that could be offered from the city for their city buildings. But of course, that's not up to me to decide. I can only ask.
And just curious, what does that amount look like when you say it could use additional help? What would that amount be like?
We currently pay, hang on, for lawn care, cleaning, snow shoveling, electricity, and utilities. We pay $187,000 a year in 2020-21.
Thank you.
I wanted to
Bronwyn.
add something, but I wanted to see whether there's any other questions. Just speak up and you'll be, will be recognized. Okay, my one thought in looking at this, and I think it's a longer term planning piece, is that we need to revisit the allocation from the county and be able to look at how we can partner to be able to sustain the library system. So I would ask the administration is if we can move forward. I know we have an agreement that's very old with the county, but we still need to be able to look at how we can sustain the system, because you certainly are serving a large population in the county through the Reading Public Library system.
Yes.
Marcia,
Is that you, Strat?
yeah,
Okay.
That last comment you made isn't something new. We've been bringing this up as long as I've been on council to see if we can get any kind of increase. It's never happened. We gotta pursue it a different way. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, Marcia,
Yeah, Lucine?
I'm sorry, I had a very difficult time understanding Strat. I don't know if he could repeat himself.
Yeah, I
or-
wasn't able to understand him either.
Or maybe share in the comments, perhaps. Or readjust your mic. Strat, I couldn't hear what you were saying.
The last comment concerning the county,
Right,
after them, from the first year I come on council, to make an additional contribution or increase, and it has never taken place. I think we need to pursue a different way of getting this. It's needed. And you know, a lot of people from the county, they are our biggest users. And they should be taking care of their people. Thank you.
okay, did everyone hear Strat's comments? And they'll be
Yes.
put down in record, Strat, but thank you very much. And it's something I think as we move into the next year, we need to, with new council members coming on board. I don't know that we've ever really gone into detail about the agreement with the county, but I think it's something that we need to have a dialogue about. Okay, anything else, Bronwyn, we'd like to add?
I do have a
Oh,
question.
Maria
Marcia.
has her hand up. Okay,
Yes.
Maria, thank you.
Thank you. The 300,000, that will be for the extension of the Wi-Fi through the parking authority and stuff like that? Or,
Through the parking authority?
I mean, you say that you want to extend the
Oh, no,
Wi-Fi.
into our library, like further out from our library walls. So, you know, so into the parking lots, especially at like northeast and northwest, where people they don't have steps to sit on at night like we do at Maine. So
Okay,
we do, you know, we do see people there when we are closed. We just need to make it a little more safe and accessible.
accessible, yes.
Mhm.
And do you know like how much that will cost to the city?
I do. The amount for that is, hang on. It would be $6,000 to boost Wi-Fi to get the bigger Wi-Fi. I don't want to call them hotspots, but the emitters. I also put in there that I would like to add a bench at northeast and northwest for residents to use. Right now, we see them literally sitting on the concrete
Mhm.
under the portico.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
I have a question, Marcia.
Yeah, Donna.
Bronwyn, first of all, congratulations on how well the library works. You've
Thank
had a
you.
lot of challenges and I really appreciate it. You guys do a lot of fundraising. Can you like do a brief summation of where your fundraising funds go versus the public funds that are out?
Sure. We use our fundraising mostly for project and programs. So our summer reading program, our children's programs, our programming budget proposed for 2022 is, at least in my spreadsheet right now, hang on. Programming is going to be just for children's at this point. We have at about $45,000. We also do additional, like digital media comes from monies raised. And then supplies. So all of those craft supplies and the Go Pack supplies come from monies raised. And some it also goes towards some of our library paid expenses for their employees. Yeah,
Thank you, Bronwyn. I appreciate that.
sure.
Okay, I think you make a very good point, though, Donna. It's very imperative to have all different funding streams, and the fundraising does become very important, and people will give money when they have special projects they can support.
Correct.
But I don't think it takes away from the other discussion we need to have about sustainable funding sources. Okay, Bronwyn, and I want to again express that the library has really moved into the 21st century with your leadership, and it's very much appreciated.
Thank you. It's a team effort.
I know, but you're a good team captain.
I thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Okay.
Bron. Moving on to the Human Relations
Great.
Commission.
Bye,
Office.
everybody.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
The Human Relations Commission budget, I believe Kimberly Talbot has just joined us. Thank you, Kimberly.
You're welcome. Thank you.
So the salaries line of this office accounts for the full-time director and the clerical position. You'll notice an increase under part-time salaries in response to the rental assistance and all of the utility assistance programs that HRC has been working on. We bumped the part-timers under that office to effectively 3. So that reflects those 3 positions. The contracted services line you'll see has been zeroed out from 2,500 because the copy machine, which was a rental, was brought on to the main contract under the purchasing office, as previously mentioned. A slight uptick in fees. And then the rest of the expenses related to this division are medical and pension obligations. Just wanted to show under the position listing, the part-time positions are both file clerks to provide more flexibility as they respond to, as I mentioned, utility and rental assistance programs. It's also important to mention, and I can't speak to anything that happened prior to my coming on, but under the 2022 budget, the administration has earmarked in the range of $5.5 million under American Rescue Plan funding, plus home specific American Rescue Plan funding to provide some sort of housing and shelter assistance for our displaced residents. And Kimberly will be hugely instrumental in steering our process for distribution and administration of those funds specific to housing in response to our displaced residents and our ongoing homelessness issue here throughout the city. With that, I will pause for questions for the Human Relations Commission office. Councilor Cepeda Freitas.
All right. So a couple of things. Well, the first one regarding the ARP funding, I would like to really see a plan for those expenses, like how will the money be disseminated to who are we partnering with? I guess, you know, just like a business plan with financial projections, forecasts, et cetera. I'm just curious of how the money is going to be divvied up and for how long. Is it just for 2022 or is it going to be extended to 2024? Also, I see a major discrepancy, and I would like for us to discuss maybe at one of our sessions, but with salary. I noticed that the salary of the executive director is the same salary as the mayor's special assistant. So I'm curious to know how salaries get determined. How do we come up with these figures and why, and how are we going to rectify?
Part of that sounds like an executive session item, and I'm happy to go into my understanding of the history of the salary for this specific position. Relative to other positions, we'll have to bring in the Human Resources Director to help with that. Any other,
it's-
Counselor Sahelnick?
Yeah, thanks, Jamar. I think that based on Johanni's question, that has been listed in other review areas. So I think that's on the parking lot, so to speak. Marcia, correct me if I'm wrong. It's just to
Right.
kind of do a recap of the salary ranges and the different positions through the position ordinance. So I think that will be discussed at a certain point. I think that's been submitted several times now, right, Marcia?
Yeah, it's definitely, you are correct, and I'm glad that the issue is brought up again. There is something that we need to look at. There may be components of it that definitely need to be discussed in executive session as it has to do with performance, but there's other parts that we just need to look at the issue of equity. And there may be a history to it, but that doesn't mean that we have to be ruled by what history is. We need to be looking at my point when I'm looking at these salaries is there's more and more administrative responsibilities that are put on the director of the Human Relations Commission. And so I think we need to be looking at the job descriptions and be able to look at what's needed to carry out those roles. Lucine?
Yeah, thank you, Marcia. That was really the second part of what I wanted to say is that here in, I guess it's 1153, I'm sorry, let me see. Well, line item 4216 contracted services. I see the yellow. Jamar, I'm sorry, did I miss why that's highlighted? Is there a decrease or?
It's been zeroed out.
It's been zeroed out. Okay.
Zeroed out, and I explained that that contracted service covered the cost of the copier rental. A majority of the copy machine rentals have been brought onto the purchasing office's citywide contract. So across multiple departments, we have eliminated that cost as a line item. And HRC was another one of those offices.
Okay, and again, I want to be able to reiterate, we have some very critical issues that need to be discussed in executive session regarding salaries. And I want to thank people for bringing them up, and we will make sure that they are moved forward. Yeah, Jamar?
If I could respectfully request to be included in that executive session, that would be awesome.
What's that?
I said, if I could request to be included in that executive
Oh,
session.
okay, yes, for
Helpful.
sure. Okay, are there any questions relevant to the Human Relations Commission budget?
Yes, one more thing. With the water hardship, I know we receive income from the water authority for water hardship that then goes out as an expense because it helps constituents. Am I correct? Because I didn't see anything allocated there. So I'm curious as to how does it come in and how does it go out?
That's done out of RAWA. I believe Kimberly's explained that before, but if you could please touch on that, Kimberly.
Sure. That's actually done out of RAWA funds. The HRC receives 15,000 from RAWA. But as far as the adjustments that are made on the bill, it's actually not cash per se. There's adjustments on each end. RAWA does an adjustment and the city does an adjustment, but RAWA pays the HRC 15,000 for the administration of the hardship program. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, I was just trying to understand where that might be reflected on the budget. I might have missed it. Thank you, Kim.
Uh-huh.
Okay, are there any other questions? Strat, do you have any comments or questions?
Nope.
Okay, anyone else on council? Okay. Just to let you know, technology-wise, I think it's important just to keep people abreast that depending on what kind of device you use, depends on who you can see when there's a screen share that occurs. So I'm limited at this point that I can only see the people who are speaking. So let's just be patient with each other and we will work through this. And at some point we will be able to meet together in person so we don't have the technology woes to deal with. So I'm going to be turning it over. I think we're done with budget discussions for this evening.
That is correct, Counselor. Thank you.
Okay, so I'll turn it back over to Lucine.
Okay, thank you, Marcia. Thank you, Jamar, and thank you to Kim and also Bronwyn. We will miss her. This was her last presentation on the proposed budget, so I hope it was a pleasant experience. She got a good ask in there. Also, just a disclaimer, I completely disconnected from the meeting during the budget, so I'm having some technical issues on my end. I don't know if it was noticed as a hiccup or not. So hang in there, and if something else happens again, I'm going to ask one of the council members to step in and just take over. Okay. So great. Thanks for joining, Donna. I see Abe has joined us as well, and some others. We did get started to try to stay on time this evening, and Council President wasn't able to join us. So next on the agenda, we have the CDBG budget. The adoption is proposed for this evening as part of our regular meeting. We have 20 minutes set aside today for Cal to have any discussion that is necessary at this point. Any other further questions we might have? I see Jamal has joined us. Thank you for making yourself available, Jamal. And so to the administration first, is there anything at this point that you would like to address or update to the council? And then let's open it up. We have about 20 minutes for this piece of the agenda.
I'm unaware of any updates that are necessary at this point, so I'll just let you continue.
Lucine?
Okay, Jamal, anything from you?
Good evening, everyone. Actually, there aren't any updates to that effect, but for the benefit of the city council, if you would like me to go over the budget real quickly and give you a refresher on that one, I'll be more than happy to do so.
Thank you for that offer. Council, I'm going to open it up to you first. Are there any specific questions that you would like to discuss or anything that you would like Jamal to review at this time? Marcia?
Yeah, and this is more of how the funds are allocated. As we see the ARP money coming into play, and we look at where CDBG has been, monies have been allocated, I think it becomes a balancing act for the administration to be able to look at how we decide what funding stream to fund which project, because some of them are very similar. Some of them I almost feel as if our ARP budget is almost augmenting CDBG. So I didn't know whether you had any response to that, or I think it's something we're just going to have to be very mindful of as we move ahead in allocating funds to different federal government funding sources.
Councilwoman, thank you very much. That's a very good question, actually, and a very good observation, astute observation, if I may add. There are the CDBG funds that we are all accustomed to, and you've seen it through the years. But to make matters a little bit more challenging, we have also received home ARP funds as well. And I believe the home ARP funds is in the neighborhood of about $2.5 million. It escapes me at this point, in addition to funds, CBDG funds, ESG funds, and home funds that are under the COVID status. So we do have a lot of categories, and you're absolutely correct. We need to be very careful of how and to allocate these funds as they come in. Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Marcia. Excellent point and good explanation, Jamal.
Thank you.
Anything else, Council? Johanny?
So then how much ARP is being allocated? What's the total?
For the ARP that we are talking about, the $61 million, there is nothing allocated under the action plan. Nothing. All the ARP and the CDBG funds are coming to us through HUD, okay, which is a federal institution, but it is dedicated to the programs that are managed by community development, and these are from shelters to preventing homelessness, operations, as well as helping with home ownership, as in the case with Habitat for Humanity and neighborhood housing services, and the list goes on to that. You may recall last time when we discussed the action plan, there were 2 items were introduced. The very first, and these are new, the very first one is to the benefit of the Reading Redevelopment Authority, as we are encouraging to buy more blighted properties and rehab them, as well as the College Town requested funds to help small business owners. Not a big amount of requests, it's about $35,000, but it helps to seed money for small business owners. So in summary, there aren't any money from the $61 million going to this program. The action plan is a standalone by itself.
Right.
And then, okay, so that's great. I was just curious if there was any ARP going towards this, because I'm trying to understand, so the 5.5 million allocated to human relations for shelters, there won't be duplication of services through CDBG and HRC, right? The monies will be used to tackle different issues related to shelters. I want to understand that.
Yes, that is correct.
That's correct, yes,
We can't double dip. There's no scenario where we do that.
exactly.
Correct.
Outside will yank
Thank you.
our entitlement. and
Exactly.
That'll be the
Great, thank you.
whatever. So there's no scenario where that happens.
Can I make a comment, Lucy?
Yeah, go ahead. I was just gonna, go ahead.
Yeah, okay, so I just feel that what I see the ARP money does, it can strengthen what we've been able to begin with address the unmet needs that the CDBG money can't cover. But I think it's important to know as we look at each of these community needs that we maybe say, okay, we're addressing this through this amount of CDBG, this amount of ARP, and these are the different issues. So just so we have a full picture of this is how our federal monies are being put into action, and then look at the outcomes. And again, it's something that I have been experiencing working with government funding, and I just think it would be a good practice that we not get them confused, but we understand that some of them are going to the same organizations for different areas of programming.
That's a great
If
recommendation. Go ahead, Jamar.
If I could clarify, our rescue plan funding is geared towards the city being able to respond with its own effort related to housing assistance
Right.
for homeless and displaced residents.
Mhm.
So it would be almost a city-run shelter, though we wouldn't have our staff running the shelter. We would contract out those operational services. But the ultimate goal is to have a city shelter in effect to help respond to the immediate need of the homeless situation. And that's in response to feedback from council for at least the last 3 years that I've been in my role, or going on 3 years. And that's
Okay.
separate and apart for what we allocate under CDBG for our external partners to help us in those efforts.
Correct, that is exactly right, yes.
Mhm.
And I may add that we're hoping that this shelter, when it's all built and developed, that will actually be a daycare shelter for some of the homeless individuals who may be roaming the Penn Street or the Fifth Street corridor in there. So we'll be able to take them to a place where they can stay warm and they remain engaged.
Thank you. I think it is important, as Marcia suggested, just as much as possible for people who aren't able to follow along for every meeting, and get the updates to have a very clear picture of what as we move forward. How are we using the rescue plan dollars? How are we using, what are the priorities of the city and the mayor? So people can stay updated. And, just a reminder that CBDG is very strict in, the buckets and how the money is used. And, that hasn't changed. That's not going to change regardless of what other funds are available and how, the strategy is to be using everything that the administration is laying out. So thank you. Any other further comments for CBDG before we move on. Okay, very good. Thank you.
Thank
Thank you,
you.
Jamal. Thank you
Thank
so much.
Thank you.
All right, so next on our agenda, we have 5 minutes to discuss council solicitor. At this point, we really just need to discuss whether or not we want December 1st as the start date for the candidate to whom we have extended the offer. The terms has been reviewed by that individual. I think everything seems agreeable, and Fred or Linda, feel free to chime in if I'm missing any details there. But I think tonight's discussion point is, is December 1st the start date that council body feels comfortable with, to ask of the candidate. Fred and Linda, is that accurate?
Yes. Fred has indicated that the law department has had one of the solicitor positions free almost the entire year, and they're able to fund the month of December.
Yeah.
We should be able to, yeah.
Okay. And also those funds will continue from the legal department, correct? The funds that have been earmarked for the council solicitor position, is that where the line item is falling?
No, that's incorrect.
That's
It's a
incorrect. Okay.
It's a council employee, therefore it's budgeted under the council budget.
It's still under council budget. Okay.
Yep, for 2022.
All right. So council, any thoughts on December 1st as a starting date? Yeah, I see some head shaking. Johanny, you have your hand up. Go ahead.
Yeah, just question as to the body, do we see a need to begin December 1st? I'm just curious, or should we wait for the new year, new budget?
I would just suggest as soon as possible, because this is a
Yeah.
charter requirement. I think
Right.
we've
Yeah.
extended this plenty. And I think, like I said, we should be able to fund it. I think I'm actually really looking forward to Mike joining the team, and although sometimes he'll be on the other team, for the most part, we'll be working together. And I think everybody will be happy once he's on board.
Yeah, the sooner we get him in and acclimated, the better.
Okay, then I would be okay with December 1st.
I'm good with that.
Okay. Strat, any thoughts? Melissa, Marcia, just very quick.
Nope.
Not too much to discuss here. Okay. All right. So we'll move forward with that. So moving along on the agenda now, thank you for being concise there. We have the parking authority. We have the executive director, Nathan Matz, joining us. We have 20 minutes assigned to this topic for discussion. It's my understanding Nathan is here with us this evening to speak specifically on the issuance of parking tickets regarding placing tickets on the vehicle versus the mail. So talking a little bit about how that ticketing process is or is not working and what requests have been coming in for that. And then also the issuance of parking tickets after the street sweeper passes. So we're going to be talking about the window of time that has been determined and whether or not we need to address that. So Nathan, if you're ready and you would like to start with that first item of how are the tickets being issued, where and how are people being notified, and move into that piece. Thank you.
Sure. And Lucine, do you want me to go into the whole history, or do you want me to just kind of talk about the acute problem that we ran into?
I'm okay with the acute problem. Does council body need a little bit of a refresher, a little bit of history? Would you like that from Nathan?
I don't.
I think it might be good just to summarize it real quickly for people who are
Okay, just a real
observing
quick.
the public.
Okay.
Go ahead.
So first, I just want to say thank you to specifically Melissa Ventura. She brought this problem to our attention. And, without somebody actually coming to us and saying, hey, something's broken, but we don't know what's broken and we don't know how to fix it because we don't know there's a problem. So basically, we started the process of doing no print tickets. And there's multiple reasons we started this. One of them is public safety, employee safety. Big thing is employee safety. Again, last week we had two of our guys had a gun pulled on them again last week. So this is an ongoing, all the time issue, especially with double parking violations. They seem to be the most dangerous. And because of that is, that's the main driver behind this. Other things, it's just efficiency. It's much more efficient to do street sweeping and not have the officers get out of the car 600 times a day. That's a huge issue for us with workers' comp and just efficiency. It was slowing down everything in terms of street sweeping. And, the eventual goal with the efficiency with street sweeping is right now it's a 4-hour block that we inconvenience people. It's either 8 to 12 or 12 to 4. And we'd like to get it down to it's only like an hour or a 2-hour block, so we can get people in and out of the block much faster. And because we've introduced this efficiency, we've been able to cut 2 to 3 hours a day off of the street sweeper routes, which gives the city the possibility to expand sweeper routes or frequency, things like that. So that's kind of the history of where it came from, why. Currently, we're only doing it on 2 violations. One is double parking, as I mentioned, and the other is street sweeping. And, there was an issue. We started it a couple months ago, and an issue came to our attention that there was a disconnect between the issue date and the escalation date and when people were being notified. So as soon as we found out about it, we went to the software engineers that designed the program for us. They found out what the issue was. They fixed it immediately, and things have been fine. We have had nobody report any issues since they fixed that. But what we did also do is City Council set the minimums for escalation dates. If you remember, we talked about this back in February. After 10 days, the escalation goes up 50%. After 30 days, it goes up another 50%. So because of running into issues and because of mailing setbacks and slowdowns because of COVID, we've extended those. Instead of having them at 10 and 30 days, we've extended them to 30 and 60 days to give everybody more time to get it and to get notified of it. Because one of the issues we were running into as well is, and this is something that it was small, but we didn't understand how big it was. Somebody lets somebody else borrow their car, like a mother lets her son take her car out. And what happens is he'll get a parking ticket, or she will get a parking ticket, and they won't tell their parents. So their parents might get a buildup of unpaid parking tickets and they never know it. So here, the owner of the car will always be notified because it is sent in the mail to the registered owner of the vehicle. So it's just one other little thing that's kind of solving some smaller problems that we noticed down here. So that's kind of the history. Are there any questions about that? I tried to make it quick, but give you as much detail as I could.
Okay, thanks, Nathan. I think there are several questions. We'll start with Donna. Go ahead, Donna.
Yeah, just one quick question to start. What is the protocol in other cities? Are other cities our size, other cities larger? Do they tend to go to no print tickets, or what is their protocol?
So this is kind of a new thing. The industry is kind of heading in this direction. But it's something like you can't go to Lancaster and ask if Lancaster's doing it. They're not doing it yet. This is kind of a beta program that was started to meet these issues. And like I said, we had them design the program. The other cities are looking at it now that it's up and running. So.
No one else is doing it.
None that I'm aware of yet.
Okay.
Donna, did you have any other?
Yeah, not at this point.
Not at this point.
Maybe later.
Okay. Nathan, I have a quick question. So in the scenario that you just outlined, what if the owner of the car, does that person have to wait to be notified via mail? Or can they check? So for example, if my son, brought the car back and said, oh, maybe we got a ticket, I don't know, right? Instead of not telling me at all. Would I be able to go online, log online and check, using my license plate numbers? So how does that happen? Or do we have to wait until something is
No,
issued?
so the way it works now is as soon as you go on our website, you can type in, you can search for by your license plate, and it'll show your entire history. So it'll show if there's something outstanding. It'll show if you're going to get something in the mail. All of that is on the website.
And what is that processing time? If somebody's out on patrol and they issue tickets, how long does it take to actually get into the system so that I could check to see if my son got a ticket?
So that should be instant. As soon as that as soon as that officer hits no print, that should be posted. Now, where we run into issues and where we've had to extend this time is PennDOT. We are slowed down by PennDOT because basically that ticket goes out, it goes to PennDOT. PennDOT checks the registration to that vehicle, sends it back to us, and then it is mailed based on PennDOT's up-to-date weekly list of where the registered owners live. So we are slowed down by that, and that's one of the reasons we've had to extend, to be fair to people.
So that is, again, the distribution of a hard copy ticket. But what you're saying is almost in real time, anybody can check on the website and see if they have one. What about emails? Have you been able to ascertain emails or distribute any notices via email?
So we only get emails if people put them in our system. It's not like PennDOT keeps a registration of people's emails, but if you're in our payment plan system, then your email is attached. Or if you're a paying monthly permit holder, then your email is in our system. Other than that, we don't have people's emails.
So
I can, but I want to stop for a second. That's a new idea I've never thought of is, can we get the engineers to design it that there's an email column, and when they push the notification out, I'm going to actually write that down as we're talking.
Yeah, and then maybe even a campaign by the parking authority to say, we're collecting or submit your email in real time, then you could get an email notification. I think if you have access to the software development, that could be something to consider. I see Johanny had a question, and Melissa. Sorry, go ahead, Nathan.
And with that, we could always get them to also include and look at text as well. So I'm writing all that down.
Go ahead, Johanny.
Doesn't address, so how would my child know that he or she got a ticket, right? Because it's not, you no longer leave anything on the windshield. I get that. So you have, and then mail will take what, 3 days, 4 days, give or take?
Yeah, it depends. Yeah.
How do you immediately, and that's great, gathering email, text. I think that's great using technology in that manner, but I think it's that, like, you don't know until you're surprised in the mail. You know what I mean? And I think that's what makes our community, or anyone for that matter, very uneasy.
Sure. I don't know. My personal experience, I've never gotten a surprise no parking ticket. If I've parked somewhere that I know I shouldn't park, it's a risk I take. If we're issuing tickets, if my guys are issuing tickets that are questionable, quality is in the 7 o'clock presentation I'm going to give to you guys. Our focus is 100% on quality. And if we're issuing tickets that are not of good quality, that somebody's like, oh, is that yellow curb? Is it dark enough? Something like that. We better not even be issuing those tickets, because it shouldn't even be a question here. And sorry if I raised my voice.
Okay, so campaign for receiving, for the RPA to receive maybe emails from folks, but could we do a campaign maybe for the park app, the mobile park app, and then would that app be able to text me if I got a ticket, for example? Like, I wonder if we can do, like, I don't know if it's robocalls, city website, Facebook, all the means to tell people to download that app, and that could also be, you know, a way of communicating back and forth.
So I really like the idea. Unfortunately, they're two different systems, right? T2 is the company that does our enforcement. Park Mobile is the company that does our mobile app. We are, as I'm going to present at 7 o'clock, because we're switching the whole system over to gateless. We are going to be introducing T2 mobile pay as well. So if I can definitely ask them if there's a way to connect them. I know with T2, if people are on the T2 app, that would be a lot easier because then it would be the same company. But I can definitely ask and see what they have to say. Because you're right, if you're on the Park mobile app, your email, app, phone number, and all of your license plates are already saved under that app. So we'd have all of that data. So let me check into that.
Okay, Melissa. And then Marcia.
Okay, I just had a comment. Well, just how I stand. I still personally feel like realistically, not everyone's over here checking their email. I mean, going to the parking authority. Oh, let me see if I have a ticket. I'm not doing that. A lot of people have come to me about not getting their tickets in the mail, and it's easier and more convenient for them to be put on the vehicle. And I stand on that. And that's like, I understand the safety, but if other cities aren't doing that either, sorry.
No, listen, I get the frustration. I was really frustrated too when I found out the size of the issue, and that it would happen right away. And like I said, since we fixed it, nobody has come to us with a single complaint in terms of timeliness. And, you know, that was our whole goal, is to get it so that people get it in plenty of time. And so even if you get it a week after it happens, right, you still have 27 days that you have to deal with it before anything happens. And, you know, the other thing we switched with that is the length of appeal time. So before, you had to appeal within the first 10 days of receiving a violation. So that's when timeliness was incredibly important, and where, you know, an instant notification is a big deal. Because if you got it on day 8 and you had to appeal within 10 days, you know, you only had a day or two to do that. So we didn't think any of that was fair. So we've extended everything back to the 30-day mark before anybody gets any escalations, or before anybody, you know, still has a chance to file that appeal. So we're on our end, we're trying to do everything we can to extend it and make it even better than it was prior. We're actually, you know, not physically putting it on. You don't get the instant notification, but you actually get a longer time period now to deal with it compared to just the 10 days when you did actually get it physically put on the car.
Go ahead, Marcia.
Okay, and I apologize if there's a little bit noisy out here in my neighborhood, so you might be picking up some of the cars. But one of my thoughts too is, since the mobile app uses your phone number and texting, and most people use texting as their primary means of communication, even probably more than email. I think that should be something that be looked into. We have to get away from using the mail system, even though I think that legally gives us verification. It's not reliable anymore. It's horrible to say that, but to be able to say that you're going to get mail, it could take 10 days for something to get from one side of Reading to the other, because it has to go to Harrisburg and come back. So looking at those timelines, it really puts people in a compromising position. So if there's any way that we can expedite and be able to show and verify that they've received something, that you would ask for a reply or whatever. So you send it out, and then if you don't get a reply, that's on them that they haven't replied. But, you know, I think that might be a better way of communicating.
Okay.
Thank you, Marcia. So I don't know, did I hear that were you saying something?
Did I say what?
Oh, nope, I thought I heard, my timer went off right when I thought I heard somebody else. So we've reached the 20 minutes. I do appreciate Nathan coming on to the committee of the whole to really kind of take some feedback and talk about this a little bit further, and to Melissa really for making this, you know, an agenda item that we really needed to discuss. I think there's areas, you know, if we are indeed in beta testing, you know, and being a forerunner in this, you know, then let's use that to our advantage. And ask them, you know, to come in and say, all right, well, here's where we're seeing issues, you know, and how do we work through this? I do agree that as a society, we are just moving away from a paperless, you know, into a paperless society. So the more direct and the more prompt and efficient we can be, the better. And I know that, you know, again, back to Nathan's point, I agree in that, you know, I know when I'm going to get a parking ticket. I have lived in many urban situations and environments and cities different to Reading. So I've lived in other cities as well. And I know when I'm parking somewhere deliberately, you know, in the scenarios. So again, just campaigns are really critical to make sure that you know where you're parking, what the rules are in your neighborhood, when they're doing the cleaning, when they're, you know, and so on and so forth. So I think the combination of some of the suggestions that have been brought forward to you, Nathan, can be explored. And I think most important is to continue to encourage the public to share their opinion, their thoughts, their concerns directly with the parking authority as they occur, so that the feedback can generate a more positive response. Donna, I saw you have something to say.
And this may not be the time, but I have 3 distinct concerns that I've received from the public. I said that I would bring them up today, but I'm not sure this is the time right now, our time frame and our limitations. But I don't know, Nathan, I can talk to you about them, but they should probably also be discussed publicly. So I don't know if you'd like to come back and we can talk about them, or what the body is.
Sure.
Sorry. Yes, I think Donna, that's valid. And I do think we as council need to extend as many invitations as we can, as frequently as possible, on issues that are concerning to us and that our constituents bring to us directly. So why don't you and Nathan coordinate, and then you can submit that to land on a committee of the whole agenda sometime soon.
And these are, just to give you an overview, these are event oriented concerns versus neighborhood oriented concerns.
And you know, that's a huge thing right now, and it's why we're going gateless, because we have to. You know, we are always going to be, as long as I'm here, on the cutting edge of testing things. We have to. You know, we can't have events that take 2.5 hours, 3 hours to get 1,000 cars out of a garage.
And that's what's happening. That's what's happening.
Right. But we also can't stand here and collect cash anymore. It's, you know, there's a natural progression, and, you know, we're starting our first beta test with 100% gateless this coming month. And as soon as we can, we're going to put that in all of our garages. It's something that's not out there. You know, if you ask me again, how many other cities are doing it? It's 0. They've completely come in and designed this entire system for us. We're the beta. Why? Because we're trying to fix the problems. Because I have a whole stack of emails right next to me here from people complaining, and rightfully so, about events. You know,
I mean, I've been stuck for an hour. I have somebody who called me 2 hours that they were stuck. I get it. And that's the gist of what I was hoping we could discuss. And I know our time limited tonight, but
Right.
we have to discuss that publicly.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Nathan, for making time. We'll see you during the regular meeting. Oh, Marcia?
Christine, yeah.
Yes.
And I just want to add to that. I think that it is so important. I appreciate what the parking authority is doing with technology, But you also have to remember that when people come into the city, if they have a bad experience and they're a source of revenue for us, okay, and they have a bad experience, they're gonna say, forget it. Okay, and once you lose a customer, once you lose people coming into the city is basically gonna be hurt. And so we need to make sure, absolutely, every time we're welcoming the guests in for whatever it might be, whether they're concerts, whatever, we have to have our best foot forward. And I'm gonna be experiencing that this Saturday, going to the symphony concert. And I have to let you know, and everyone that's on this call, if anything goes awry there, I'm gonna be on the phone ASAP, because I can't be, as an elected official, be seeing this kind of breakdown. Okay, we have to have our best foot forward. So let's make sure the things that Donna talked about, I saw happening too, it can't happen again. So if we're beta testing a system, that's not an excuse for not having the old system working correctly.
So let me just add a comment here. So you're going to go to the symphony. Just remember something. The Downtown Improvement District was disbanded. So the symphony had to ask us to step up and help them. So we're adding additional staffing to help them with parking, directing, and all of those security type things. So yes, there should be nothing that breaks down. I'm completely in agreement with you. And that's why under a gateless system, that's the only guarantee that things won't break. Those gates that we're talking about, we just spent $1.4 million installing them last year, and they're already not working. Brand new gates, $1.4 million. We're tearing them all out and we're throwing them all away. And we can't do it fast enough, unfortunately.
Thank you.
We're going to do it as fast as we can. I promise you that. We have the money, and we're absolutely going to do it, because it is, as you said, it becomes an event. It becomes a problem. It becomes something that people remember. We don't want people to ever even remember that they parked in our city. We want them to come, experience it. We want them to stay and enjoy the downtown, but we don't want them to ever remember parking. And unfortunately, it's going to take some time to get there. And, you know, we're trying our best. I mean, trust me, we are.
Well, thank you.
Thank you, Nathan. And thank you for bringing other important things as you experience them to our attention. Okay, so we're going to move on to the agenda review.
Lucine,
Yes.
you asked me about two things. We didn't get to the second one. You asked me about the street sweeping.
Yes, I thought that you addressed that briefly in saying that you would be looking at reducing the block time limits from down to 1 to 2 hours maximum. Is that correct? That's what you said?
Yeah, I mean, the big issue there that came up was about us coming back around and not a clear policy for the public. So what we've posted on our website is our SOP for how our officers should always handle a street sweeping issue. And it outlines everything in there. It's on our website currently. You can look at it. And I mean, I don't have to go through the whole thing if you don't want me to, but it's on there. But thank you for bringing it to our attention. Again, it was something I was unaware of. As soon as we found out about it, we set something in motion to standardize everything. So thank you.
I have a brief question. I have a brief question, Lucine.
Go ahead, Mayor.
And I just want to make sure I get clarification. Is it going to change that after the sweeper goes by, there is absolutely no parking still, or are they allowed to park after the sweeper goes by?
Thanks, Mayor. No, our policy is when we are done in the block and we are moving on to the next block, people are then allowed to park. The issue we've run into is it's leaf season, where the sweepers are filling up frequently because of all the leaves from the trees. So what happens is the parking enforcement officer has to stop. The sweeper has to go drive away and go dump their leaves, and then come back mid-block and continue forward. So there should never be a time where we are coming back in after the sweeper is gone. But what we've had to outline for everybody in this standard operating procedure is how that's going to happen. So basically what's going to happen is our vehicle is going to stop wherever the sweeper stopped, stay there, and just wait for the sweeper to come back. And if anybody comes and tries to pull in front of them to park again, they're going to get out of their vehicle and say, hey, you can't park there. The sweeper didn't go through. So we're trying to standardize all of it. It's all on the website. So yes, people can, once the sweeper's gone, they can go back, except for if our vehicle is still there with its flashing lights.
Okay,
I hope that
excellent.
answers the question.
I would also speak with Public Works to see the possibilities that the sweeper can continue to the end of the block as much as they possibly can to not confuse, to have that confusion. I know that if he's filled, it's filled, but maybe if this is the way that we could tell that it's about to get filled, let's not wait till it's completely filled and start a new block. So I'll talk to Public Works about that as well.
Great, thank you.
Thanks, Mayor. I think that right there is a good example of how the coordination between the parking authority and the Public Works Department, those intermunicipal conversations and partnerships are critical. So thank you very much. All right. Okay, Nathan, we'll see you at 7 or
Thanks.
slightly thereafter. Yeah. All right, everybody, we're going to move on to the agenda review for tonight's regular meeting. Linda, is there anybody registered to speak this evening?
We have 2 people registered, one to speak by phone and one in person, one non-agenda matters.
Okay, and are you prepared then to be able to accommodate them both?
Yep.
All right, very good. Do we have Mike Reinert this evening from Grace United Methodist Church joining us?
Correct.
Okay, very good. And let's see here. So Donna, I will ask you to read the public comment, the rules specifically pertaining to COVID, if you don't mind.
Sure.
Okay. Let's see here. So the approval of the agenda and minutes. Let's see here. The minutes of the October 25th regular meeting, November 1st. We have some special meeting summations, and then the committee of the wholes from the 25th, 26th, and November 1st and November 1st nominations. Is that correct? Yes, it is November. So let's see here. Moving forward, the consent agenda, A is blank, award of contract. Linda, is that correct? Is that updated?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, so we have 2 resolutions this evening under the consent agenda. The first one will be authorizing the promotion of Sergeant Aaron Demko to the rank of lieutenant. And then the second resolution is authorizing the promotion of Officer Daniel Egbert to the rank of sergeant. Any concerns or any comments there to review prior to both of those items under the consent agenda? So just a reminder, consent agenda moves forward unless anything needs to be pulled off and moved further down for action on its own. No. Okay, maybe we'll ask Chief Tornelli if he's on to make a brief comment or two about that. If he'll be joining us. I don't think he's on right now, is he? Oh, there you are, Chief.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. Sorry, I just got let in. Talking about the promotions, correct?
Correct.
Yes. So the lieutenant promotion is to replace a lieutenant who retired. And then the sergeant promotion is to replace the sergeant who's getting promoted to lieutenant.
It makes sense. Yeah. Very good. Thanks,
So,
Chief.
and they are the next eligible on the civil service list.
Okay. Well done. Any questions for Chief on that? All right. Okay, so then we have the administrative report this evening, and I know we have the mayor on the call and the managing director. So how will you be presenting the administrative report this evening, gentlemen?
I will be presenting the report myself as usual. Thanks.
Yep, actually, fortunately, I was able to be at the community hall. Unfortunately, I won't be able to be available at the regular meeting as I have a family commitment.
Okay, thanks, Mayor. Thank you for joining us for the cow, and I'm sure that we'll relay through Abe anything that comes up during the administrative report. All right.
Absolutely. Also, please be aware that my chief of staff, Frank Dembowski, is also there at the meeting.
Perfect. Hi, Frank. Very good. We'll be in good hands. Let's see here. We move on to the report from the auditor that has been submitted. Maria, you'll be prepared to present that report to us.
Yes.
Very good. And then we do have Nathan coming back as he referenced several times. So our reportment from the authorities will be from the Reading Parking Authority this evening, which I think is really good timing. So we'll look forward to Nathan presenting his report there. So we have only 2 ordinances for final passage this evening. We have Bill A 75-2021. This will be amending the Code of Ordinances, Chapter 62, New Officers and Employees Pension Fund, Section 102, to prohibit the participation of new members, whereas the employee is hired or rehired on or after January 1st, 2022. This was introduced at the September 27th regular meeting. It was tabled at the October 11th and October 25th regular meetings.
Yes,
Are we-
Counselor,
Yes.
if I could just add, we're going to ask for another continuance, and this will be the last one. We're this close to resolving a situation or a question regarding rehire. So as soon as that's finished, we'll be able to get this voted on. So we appreciate your patience, and we will have this resolved.
Okay, so we can table that again this evening.
Please.
Okay, very good. Let's see. So B is Bill 81-2021. This is authorizing a budget transfer in the Law Department in the amount of $70,000 from Special Counsel Labor Negotiations to General Legal Services. This was introduced at the October 25th regular meeting. I'm going to ask Fred if you just want to do a quick review of the transfer of those funds, please.
Yeah, we've had, increased spending on outside counsel for a variety of things. There's the charter board, which we've been discussing somewhat offline and will continue to discuss in the near future. There's a couple of cases, one I think that's headed to trial, one that we discussed rather heavily earlier in the year. That's in our budget. Normally, a lot of the outside counsel cases are not in our budget, but this one, because it's not covered, ended up being covered by insurance. It's covered by the law department's budget. So we're also expecting to spend on telecommunications counsel, because we have 2 issues that are coming up that are very specialized with the cable franchise agreement. We're using the same firm we used 15 years ago, and we are using that same firm to help us with our wireless communication, something that Dave Paris and I had been working on for a while. And thankfully, we learned that it is way beyond our skill set, and we are bringing in the experts. That, and then we've been short staffed, not just this year, but in past years, which is starting to catch up to us a little bit.
Okay, Fred. I see Johanny has a question. Go ahead.
That we should be forecasting for, I don't know, is it 2023 that we go into labor negotiations again?
If I could help Fred with that one. So the reason the 70,000 is available to transfer is because the administration successfully negotiated all 4 of the bargaining agreements. And as such, we use little to no labor counsel except to review the final agreements and making sure, to quote, we weren't giving away the farm, as also recommended under the exit plan. To that extent, next year, we've budgeted 50,000 to cover help with labor negotiations. And I don't even foresee needing all of that 50,000 for next year.
Yeah, and our budget comes up tomorrow, so we'll get into more detail with that. But yeah, I think in years past, that was, I think, one of the first recommendations from PFM was that the law department use outside labor counsel, and John McLaughlin and his team have been great But we were able to do a lot of that. And to be very clear, in case anyone's listening, we did rely heavily on them to review it. Just we were able to do a lot more of the heavy lifting. Jamar did a lot of the heavy lifting himself, I should say. And then John McLaughlin was there to kind of give it his blessing. So we were able to make significant savings there. And that's where the money's coming from.
Okay. Fred, during the public meeting, I may have you just briefly address that. I don't think we need to go into everything we just did, but well done.
Can we just replay it, maybe?
Yeah, nope, doesn't work that way. Okay, very good. Any other questions on that $70,000 transfer? Nope, okay. All right, so then, oops, just lost my agenda here. I know we have several new ordinances. I'm gonna pull that up. Marcia, would you be willing to read through those as I pull my agenda back up? I can't get my agenda up. Hold on one second.
Marcia, you're on mute.
I was trying to keep you from hearing my dog. Okay, so anyhow,
Sorry,
A,
thanks, Marcia.
ordinance authorizing a budget transfer of $30,000 from finance to the mayor's office for the purchase of a car for the mayor. And who can speak to this?
I can.
Jamar?
So since taking office, we've been using, not a technical term, but hand-me-down cars for the mayor to go to various official events inside and outside the city. As we go forward, there have been a lot of maintenance issues with those vehicles. So we began the process of seeking a certified used vehicle. And this funding will cover the cost of that certified used vehicle once we're able to find another one, because they've been going like hotcakes. So this transfer will allow funding to purchase a vehicle once we find another one for use in the mayor's office in his official capacity.
Okay.
Any questions?
I don't think so. And just a reminder, these are the introduction of the new ordinances. So we'll walk through them and then they'll be available for 2 weeks to discuss and further.
If I may, if I just want to chime in real quick. That I guess Mr. Kelly was very kind in choosing his words that about the breakdowns and the hand-me-downs. Unfortunately, the vehicles I have used have left me, stuck on a couple of occasions. However, I didn't feel that it was appropriate or even justifiable to have a new vehicle. So that's why a used certified vehicle is being considered. And again, this is the first time since I took office. Just want to make sure that, we want to be responsible with our funding spending.
Thank you, Mayor. Marcia, go ahead and continue.
Okay, so B, ordinance authorizing a budget transfer of $12,000 from finance to the mayor's office to reimburse the Pottinger Trust Fund to cover the cost of the gun buyback program, as this fund may only be used for charities.
Yes, the auditor's office has made clear that the Pottinger Trust Fund account funds can only be used for charitable purposes. As such, we do need to cover the cost of the very successful gun buyback program that we did earlier this year. And as such, this $12,000 would cover that expense under community promotions in the mayor's office. And that would return the $12,000 that was already spent out of the trust funds back into that account and resolve any potential issues there.
Yeah, and I think as Lucine said, we will have a chance before we vote on these to have further discussion. So C is authorizing the addition of an agency fund line item in the amount of $25,000 for downtown holiday-related costs.
Yes, with the lack of reauthorization of the DID, the city has taken on a lot of downtown related responsibilities. And our downtown coordinator recently identified that with the holiday season approaching, we need to be able to receive donations to help with the cost of the decorations in the downtown corridor. And as such, we needed to create a line item to receive those donations under. And we're using the agency fund to the extent that any leftover money is remaining, it can roll over to next year and be used for the same purpose. But just to be clear, that 25,000 is expected to be fully covered under donations.
That is correct. And if I could just add to that, the fundraising is going extraordinarily well. We've already exceeded that amount. Thank you.
Wow. Thank you, Wade.
Johanna, do you have a brief question? Hey, Johanna. You're on mute.
Yes, sorry, thank you. What, do we know what's happening for the holiday event?
Are you asking about the parade, Counselor? Yes, we put out a press release about 2 weeks ago. It's going to start at 11 a.m. and it's going to have quite a few participants. In fact, we were pleasantly surprised to see how many people responded immediately in terms of signing up. So we're really looking forward to it. I know it's an annual event that many people look forward to seeing. So we expect the streets to be packed.
I would also add that we are working and already, I'm sorry. I should also add that we are also started to work and collaborating and more information to be forward within the next couple of days regarding the tree lighting.
Great.
And I
Yeah,
need to amend that. It starts at 10, not 11, 10 a.m.
Abe, is that part of your report this evening?
Yes, yes, it is.
Okay, good. Johnny?
Being part of this money to decorate at all, lights, I don't know, things across the street along either Penn Street or what have you?
What was the question? You broke up in the beginning.
Just curious if we're going to be decorating the streets along the corridor of Penn Street. What lighting, things that you see in other cities that they have like banners or garlands or things hanging all across the strips or on their streets.
It's Cindy on the line that will she be able to answer that? I don't know to what extent the decorations are. I know there's decorations coming forward. I just don't know to what extent.
I just heard from Cindy. They're working on additional decorations right now. They're hard to get because of the supply chain, but yes, surrounding municipalities are running into the same thing with Christmas decorations.
Storage from DID?
You broke up.
Johanny,
You're breaking up.
you have a delay. You have a delay on your computer somehow. So you start talking, we don't hear it right away.
Sorry, is this better? Now I
Yeah.
have both my AirPods on.
That's-
Okay. All right. Do we have stored items from DID? Because I recall DID having a lot of decorations that they would put out. So I'm curious to know if we have these items stored that we can repurpose.
Yes, we do. We have those in storage right now. That's previous inventory. And the garlands and banners are going to be new. The garlands and the banners will be new, but we do have an inventory of used decorations at our disposal.
So before I take your question, I'm going to make a recommendation to the administration. Perhaps next week, if you can squeeze in or send even a memo update from Cindy, because I think rightfully we're kind of unclear as to what will be carried on from the previous years, and then what the administration is bringing to the table for this year. So I think that would be helpful if you could manage that within the next week, because the parade's right around the corner. So November 20th is in less than 2 weeks, right? So
Happy to accommodate that, Counselor.
thank you.
And
Thank you.
I'm also gonna take the opportunity for a public announcement that if anybody's listening or anybody on this call, including the counselors, want to reach out to any individual that would like to make a donation to beautify our city, we always accepting and welcome those fundings to, again, as I always say, we are each other's neighbors, working to build a better Reading together.
Thank you, Mayor. I know Marcia, I'm sorry, I know Donna had a comment, but I just want to address what came through the chat. So we as City Council, we can talk about specifically what we're doing next week at the Committee of the Whole meeting. I know there's been some email threads back and forth, but we can talk about that cohesively as a body next Monday. Donna?
And I'll just say, as someone who's been a long veteran of decorating downtown, money isn't always the thing. We have done it in the past with zero money that we've decorated, that we've gone out in the woods, our woods, got natural branches and everything else. I don't know that that's the best way to do it, but I can tell you we did it with zero money and everything. Bo's donated. Marcia knows that she was a part of helping put those things together. Again, I'm not saying that's the best thing, but it can be done. We even had trees donated. God help us that we're going to.
Don't go there. Don't go there, please.
Again, I'm sorry.
Don't go there. Let's move on, please.
No. I'm going to always say that because the natural beauty of natural trees is unfortunate. We no longer enjoy that because that tree is just the worst. But we're stuck with it, and there we have it. But let's consider having a natural tree on the corner in front of our building and have a really pretty natural tree to complement the menorah and that whatever we want to call that cone.
Yeah, no, and I hear you loud and clear.
I mean, it's horrible, Mayor. I'm sorry, it's horrible.
I hear what you're
Okay,
saying.
let's let the mayor address that comment, and then we're going to move forward.
I hear you. You're completely correct. Beauty of life, beauty. I mean, I always enjoy going and cutting a tree for my home. However, I think what we were referring to was for additional decorations. Instead of reusing old stuff from 10, 15, 20 years ago, what I'm referring to is let's take a little pride. Let's take a little pride and it doesn't, a lot of people be willing to help out. We don't have to do this alone without funding. I know you mentioned that in the past that you've done it without any money, but I'm sure that there's a lot of people that be willing to commit and help beautify the city. So let's take a little pride, and if we can get it, why not?
So we have a list of people that were willing to donate a live tree. If we could get one of those live trees donated, can we have a live tree in addition to the artificial one?
Well, at this point, with Christmas around the corner, I think that you should have been brought up a little sooner to collaborate and do something correct. So maybe moving forward for next year, you could help us start that a little earlier.
Okay.
Just one other thing, that Blessed Snoopy Doghouse, can we please have that back? Because that was really a centerpiece and the kids loved it. The kids loved walking in it. We have a citizen named Charlie Brown who came and sat there with his Snoopy, and it was a really joyous thing. John Slipko, God rest John, he helped work on that. So can we please have that back?
Again, do not hesitate to come by my office and let's start chatting about these things, a little earlier.
Well, there's still time. It's up at 14th Street, so we can just bring it down. And I bet Reading Distillery would be happy to help with that.
So the suggestion has been laid down
stand
by
by
the
my
mayor
comments.
to present ideas forward, and I've asked for the administration to present kind of a recap and overview of what they're planning, so that this isn't piecemeal. We don't want to go too far off topic. Marcia, do you have a pertinent comment before we move on?
Yeah, just to add, not being of the Christian religion, it's been very interesting for me since my time on council to observe how this thing continues to change from year to year. But I wanted to thank the mayor for recognizing that this is a celebration of holidays and that we need to be able to celebrate all holidays, whatever traditions might come. And that the first day of Hanukkah comes early this year. It's in November. So I appreciate, and I always know Public Works does what it needs to do to get the menorah back up there. So we'll continue to do that and celebrate and reach out to all the other diverse religions we have in our community.
Thank you, Marcia. It is very early this year. All right, so we're going to keep moving on our agenda review because that's what we are discussing. And so in our, let's see here, we have three resolutions. Resolution A is reappointing Michelle McCosey to the Reading Public Library Board effective January 1st of 2022. That went through nominating. So everybody comfortable with that? And you can say a couple words about, it's Michelle, right? Is that correct? Yes, okay. And then let's see, Resolution B is authorizing the submission of the 2022 CDBG action plan. So we've kind of vetted that at this point. And then Resolution C is approving the conditional use application for a group home at 730 and 732 McKnight Street submitted by Andrea McHenry for freedom and restoration of everyone enslaved or free, with the conditions listed and attached and the conditions approved by the zoning board. So we did have those hearings. Any further comments there, council, before we address that during the regular meeting? Okay, all right. So let's see, that's it for our agenda review. I know that at this time, we also have an executive session that was requested with the solicitor. It's 6:30. So before we break into that, are there any other just general comments for the committee of the whole meeting? Johanny?
Related to the ARP funds that I know at a future date will be asked to vote on. I know that several organizations are already submitting proposals or requests for monies. I'd like for us to have access to those requests so we can read what agencies and organizations are proposing to do with the request for ARP money.
Yeah, and I don't see any issue with that. We're going to have a separate committee of the whole presentation at the council president's request, and we will be doing that sometime in December. He wants to get through the budget process first before we sit down and go through a comprehensive list of all of the organizations that have submitted. And I do have a list of that in my office. But yes, we will definitely have a separate session where we're going to go through it with a fine tooth comb for everyone's edification. Thanks.
Thanks, Abe. Marcia?
Yeah, and to add to that point, I think it would be rare, and because it will be discussed at a council meeting, it will become a public document, but I think it's very important for the public to know who has applied, irregardless of what the status is. I just think that should be published. You may want to, speak with the solicitor around that, but I just feel that's so important because we have to be very mindful of all the applications coming in.
Absolutely, no doubt.
Thank you, Marcia. Anything else for the good of the body before we go into executive session? Okay. All right, we will try to keep on time to begin the regular meeting at 7 o'clock as it is scheduled. That'll be a separate link. So at this time, Linda, if you can start to let everybody exit that needs to exit. And Fred, who just council body needs to stay on, and who from the administration?
The mayor,